Hi guys, Dave Wilson here again. Now, if you've ever tried to make your own jump rings, you'll understand how difficult it is. Trying to get the coil uniform, trying to hold it while you saw it, it's very difficult. We've all tried it. Well, a few years ago, Pepe introduced the jump ring maker, and it took the world by storm. Finally, we can make jump rings at home, mass-produced, any size, cleanly, quickly, and more importantly, safely. Well, you probably know that they recently introduced the Jump Ring Maker 2, and this is machined aluminium, powder coated, fantastic quality. Well, they don't sit around, they continue to improve and listen to feedback from jewellers, people like myself. So what I've got for you today is the Jump Ring Maker, let's call it 2.1, slightly improved Jump Ring Maker 2. So you want to make lots of jump rings, nice, quickly and easily, like this. Follow me, let me show you how it's done. So this is the latest version of the Jump Ring Maker 2, and it's not so much a tool as a collection of tools. Everything comes on the powder coated aluminium base, and it consists of the coil winder here. We have 20 different mandrels for different diameters, and they fit into the little aluminium tray there. You have your arbor with the special saw, the Pepe saw blade here, you can see that there. We've got the saw cover which fits onto your flexi shaft, and I'll demonstrate that in a moment, and at the back here you've got the coil holder, which is very important, and everything fits on this nice tray, as you can see. Now, the original coil winder came in two sections, but the new improved version is now made out of one piece machined solid aluminium, so this makes it very tough, very strong. It's not going to wobble or move around. You can see the quality of it here if I zoom in. You can see the brass bushings, the solid aluminium handle. The whole thing is really solidly made and it's great quality. So this is going to give you consistent, repeatable coils, and that's the first stage of making great jump rings. Now the set comes with this tray of 20 mandrels ranging from 2mm to 12mm diameter. Now on the larger ones the diameter is on the side as well as a hole to help you get your wire started. On the smaller ones, where these are too small to do this, the diameter is stamped onto the actual base, so it's very easy to identify exactly which size you need for whatever jump ring you want to make. It also comes with the coil holder, and this is what holds your coil safe and steadily for cutting it. And on this version you'll notice that the top is very thick and it's a lot more solid and sturdier than some of the earlier versions, so once again a little improvement there. You also have the special arbor and a Pepetools blade, and it's important that you fit this the correct way, and I'll show you this in a second. Finally, you have this very important guide, and this acts as a safety cover for the saw, and it also helps to align it and keep the saw at the right angle. So we've got everything we need to make and cut jump rings. So let me show you how to get this set up, and let's get to work. Now the first thing we need to do is to screw down our coil winder, and you'll notice at the bottom here we've got 4 screw holes. Now I'm right-handed, so I want the handle to be on my right so I can feed the wiring from my left. So little tip for you, turn it over and grab yourself a piece of paper and push through the paper through the 4 screw holes, and you can then use this as a template to mark the screw positions either on your bench or on a piece of wood. Now I would recommend using domed head screws because these will clamp it down flat and prevent it from wobbling. Now if you don't want to screw it directly onto your bench, you can do what I've done here and screw it to a piece of wood, and you can in turn use G-clamps to clamp this down to your bench whenever you want it. Of course, you don't just have to mount it in the traditional way onto your bench. There's no reason why you can't mount it horizontally onto a wall, or in fact if you've got a shelf over your workbench, there's no reason why you can't screw it underneath the shelf and hang it down vertically. It still works the same way around. So wherever you want it, find a place for it and screw it down, and I would recommend screwing it down somewhere permanently. Now the next job is to assemble the saw onto the arbor, and be very careful because this is razor sharp. You need the arbor to be pointing upwards, and you also need the text to be pointing upwards. And note the little arrow on the blade, that's the direction that the blade needs to rotate. So pick up the arbor, carefully pick up the blade, and you'll notice there's a little notch there, so make sure that that's aligned. Get the other part of the arbor and again align the little notch on the arbor with a little stud on the other side. Pop in the screw, and very important that you screw it together very tightly and firmly, so you don't want this coming undone. Finally, just a quick safety check, the arbor is pointing up, the text is pointing up, and you can see the direction that it's going to rotate there. So when this is being driven from the right hand side, it's rotating that way, and it will be pulled towards yourself, and the bottom will be cutting towards you and into the coil, and it's very important that it's working in this direction. If you're left-handed, the blade still needs to work in the same direction, but you're going to mount it from the opposite side. So in this case you want the text facing away from the arbor. So screw it on, assemble it in the same manner, and you'll note that with the text facing away from the arbor and the machine running in reverse, important unit in reverse, the blade will still cut towards you at the bottom in the same direction. Now the jump ring maker is designed to work with a Fordham handpiece. Now you've got a couple of options. This is the 30 handpiece, which uses the chuck key and the 3-jaw chuck at the end, and that's great. Another alternative is the 44 handpiece. This uses fixed collets. Perhaps not as popular nowadays, but I've got one of these, so I will probably set this up and keep this just for using with the jump ring maker. I would advise it's worthwhile getting a second hand piece, because you don't want to keep setting it up and dismantling it. So get yourself another hand piece and dedicate that just for the jump ring maker. Now your kit came with some Pepe lube, and it's worthwhile putting some on the blade before we insert it into the holder, because it's really difficult to do this later on. So just rotate the blade round and get a bit of lubricant on, and that'll help it cut later on. So grab your handpiece cover, and using the little Allen key provided, you want to just loosen off the screws there. You don't need to take them out, just loosen them so that you can get the handpiece in. So slide the handpiece in. Remember, you need to put it in from the open end there because you've got the blade attached. And you want to get the blade aligned up with this groove that runs all the way around it. You see that there? So get your blade aligned up with that. So be careful, because again it is sharp. And then just put the screws down. Don't tighten them up all the way, just finger tight. Make sure you can still move it backwards and forwards. And before you tighten them up, get the top from the coil holder. Place it on upside down. Okay, so you've got the little groove there at the top. Pop that on, and you want to make sure that that saw blade is in the dead centre of that groove. So just adjust it, make sure it's in the dead centre, and once you're happy with it and it's not touching either side, go ahead and tighten up your screws. Once it's all clamped down, just check and make sure that the blade rotates freely and it's not touching the sides of the guide. Then attach it to your flexi shaft and we're good to go. Now I'm using the 4mm mandrel here, and as I mentioned before, the 4 and below don't have the little hole at the end to get your wire started, but that's not a problem. All you need to do is put it into your chuck and secure it, and put a 90-degree bend in the end of your wire, and all you have to do is slip the wire in between the jaws and just rotate it so that the wire goes around the top, and that'll get it started. I've seen some ridiculous videos on YouTube where people talk about wedging the wire in the side of the jaws and the mandrel wobbles all over the place. What is the point in having a precise piece of equipment if you're not going to use it properly? So always make sure that the mandrel is perfectly straight. As I wind, you will notice that I'm pulling slightly to the right, so I'm keeping all the coils nice and tight close up together. I'm also pulling downwards, keeping a nice even tension as I wind. So you want the coil to be nice and tight close up together. You don't really want gaps in it, otherwise those rings will be bigger. Keep an eye on the length, and when you get to the appropriate length, just stop and then get a pair of wire cutters and just snip the end. And then because of the way it slipped in between the jaws, all you have to do is slide it off. Trim the ends with a pair of wire cutters, and there you go, you've got a great perfect coil. So make as many as you need before you move on to the next stage. If you're using one of the larger mandrels, you might be able to use a little hole at the end to get your wire started. So just pop it in straight, start rotating round the top, and that'll get you going. The only difference with these is that once you've got your coil wound, you'll have to just unloosen the mandrel a little bit and get into the end with a pair of wire cutters to just snip that little bit where it's bent in there, and that'll allow you to release the coil and slide it off. So now that we've got our coil, we need to cut it, and this is where the coil holder comes in. You'll notice that there's a stop at one end. The coil needs to go into the groove and be pushed down towards this end. The blade is going to cut down this way towards us, so we need this stopper to be closest to us. You may also notice there's a line engraved across the top here. This is 75mm or 3 inches from the stop. So what this means is that your coil must be shorter than 3 inches or 75mm. The reason for this is because you need space at the top to get the saw blade in. If you make the coils too long, you won't be able to get the saw blade in. So keep your coils under 3 inches or 7.5cm. Now, I have seen videos where people talk about wedging this up against the side of the bench and jamming something at the back of it to keep it still. Very, very stupid and very dangerous. Don't forget, you've got a blade inside here that's rotating at 30,000 RPM, so don't mess about with things wobbling on your desk. This absolutely must be screwed down for safety, either to your bench or to a piece of wood, but make sure that it's nice and secure at all times. So pop your coil in and push it down towards the bottom. Make sure it's nice up against the stop, and then get some of your Pepe lube that you used earlier and just rub it along the top of the coil, and this will help to lubricate the blade as it cuts. Pop on the lid and push it down against the springs and make sure that it's level, and then pop the screws on at either end, but make sure that you keep it level. Now here you can see a close-up view of the saw blade here. So here we've got the coil in the holder, and that's the saw blade, and you can see that it needs to rotate in the direction, so the bottom is cutting into the coil there. So hopefully you can see that. Now here you can see a macro shot of the blade, and you can see the direction of the teeth cutting into the actual coil, which is on your right there. So this is why it's very important to get the blade the correct way around, and hopefully you can understand that now, how the blade rotates and cuts towards the coil. So insert the blade into the slot and make sure that it's seated properly. Start it spinning, get it up to full speed, and then pull it towards you with a slow, steady pressure. You're going to have to press down a little bit, all the way to the very end. Let the blade stop running before you release it out vertically, and make sure that it stops moving before you put it down. And then this is always a wonderful moment. Unscrew the thumb screws and take the lid off, and you'll see all your jump rings beautifully and precisely cut. And here's a tip for you: if you've got a tumbler, thread them all onto a large loop of wire or a piece of string and chuck them in the tumbler for about 20 minutes, and that'll just take off any burrs and remove the wax and just clean them up for you. So there you have it. Quick, easy, repeatable, perfect jump rings, as many as you want in a matter of seconds. So great for chainmail or indeed any kind of general jewellery. The Pepetools Jump Ring Maker 2, or in this case the 2.1. At long last, a simple, easy way to make jump rings. So guys, I just wanted to finish up on a word of warning. The Pepe Jump Ring Maker is a popular tool, and because of that there are fakes and copies on the market. I was recently given a British copy of the Jump Ring Maker 2, and this thing was so poorly made I refused to even look at it. It was actually dangerous. Don't forget, you've got a blade spinning round. You can't be dealing with inferior and shoddy tools. So don't gamble with your safety. don't gamble with your jewellery. Find a reputable dealer and make sure you get genuine Pepe tools from the USA. You are going to get great value, the best quality you can get, and you are going to get guaranteed perfect results every time. Don't gamble with your safety, guys. Stay safe, have fun, and I'll see you next time. I've been Dave Wilson. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.